Folks, if you're not pissed off, you're not paying attention.
And radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
You magnificent bastard, I read your book. I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Captain.
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 Captain. Captain.
Captain.
Captain. Captain. Captain.
No, not yet. Not yet. Don't pass out on me yet.
Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin Berserk Bobcat Saloon, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Always spell it with a K. I happen to be a mere 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire planet, the Bill Mill, the belly of the beast, the Capitol building in downtown Sacramento at 10th and L Streets, where late at night you can hear the death of common sense and its concomitant wail as it wafts from that petrifying edifice. And late at night, when I exit the plush, resplendent, sumptuous, palatial, and effulgently bulbous SHR Media Network studios, I will most def be smelling the odoriferous stench of sulfur, brimstone, and evil emanating from that mentally destitute column structure aforementioned. There is no bartender tonight. There is no bartendress. We're on lockdown. No bartender, but you can see the lava lamp is in fact lighted to my right, your left. Still and all, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the Saloon. Nothing is sacred, the speech is free, but the booze is not. As I said at the beginning of the show, before I started the intro, folks, right now, if you're not really pissed off, you are not paying any attention. Because what is happening to our nation is despicable. I just discovered that Los Angeles County... Here's a prediction. And if it's good for California, always spell it with a K, it's going to be good for the rest of the country as well. Los Angeles County has decided that in its infinite wisdom, it's going to shut down until July. Well, do you happen to think, now, they haven't said specifically when in July, or I'll have to go back and reread that story. My guess would be it's going to be after the 4th of July. Why? Just to screw with you. Here's what's coming. Remember, you heard it here first. The question will be, how many other counties will pick up along with Los Angeles County and say, wait, we have to go along with Los Angeles County, and we're going to make sure that we don't open anything until July as well. Other states will do that. Leftist states. Oregon will screw with people. Michigan will screw with people because they're run by leftists. And so what's this leading up to? If you can excuse or keep people oppressed and suppressed until July, well, what do you think happens around July? Right around July, somebody somewhere is going to start cribbing some numbers saying, well, July's not looking really good. August, September, October. Oh, and by the way, now it's starting to become winter, and this is going to rear its ugly head again. So I'm telling you right now, what is this all about? It's going to be all about November. And you can't go to the polls. Or there's going to be some other snag in the way. In chat, welcome to Mike, welcome to Jack, and welcome to Simone. Good to see you guys here. Trust me on this. California, always spell it with a K, is a petri dish. They're going to see how far they can push. Los Angeles County is going to see how far it can push. And they're also going to be an example for the rest of the nation. And the rest of the leftist governors and mayors are going to look and use that as a yardstick for how much shit can we get away with. And if Los Angeles doesn't go nuclear, if the people say, okay, I'll do whatever you want. You're the government. I love you. The rest of the leftist mayors and governors are going to do the same damn thing to you. Make no mistake about that. And folks, tonight, make no mistake about this.
This is an SHR Media Network special report.
As I said at the beginning, I said, well, if you're not pissed, you're not paying attention. And especially these days. Tonight's special report likely will take the bulk of the 2 hours. And it's this. The Flynn case, and there's a new story that just dropped today about this. And if you thought this jerked your chain, oh, just wait. But General Flynn and his predicament proves, yeah, this is in fact a soft coup against you and against me. I said, and I wrote since January of 2017, 3 long years ago, that what we are witnessing in the United States of America is a soft coup against a presidential nominee, a president-elect, and a sitting president. I was writing and saying that years before it became cool to do so, because I had insight into laws violated that I'm going to mention tonight, and I also have at my disposal, because I'm a thinking human being, a grasp of history, facts, logic, rationality, proportion, tradition, context, intent, and common sense. Just thought I'd throw that in there for you. And because those things, power, mighty applications of power, propaganda, and weight, can be applied to one president by whom the forces of the deep state disagree, well, guess what? It can thusly be applied to any other president on down the line by a different party with an array of similar forces. But the Obama administration wasn't thinking of that. And that's also immaterial with the LDAM, what I call the leftist Democrats and American media maggots. With a number of caveats, of course, including the American media maggot factor, because the AMM will never side with Republicans or conservatives, not unless, and this is possible, not unless the AMM, what I call the American media maggots, are totally eradicated and reinvented, which may in time occur. We certainly know they are moribund. The American media maggots hate to be called fake news. They despise that, except that they continue to go out of their way to be fake news each and every week. Another case in point, yesterday, here's a story by Greg Ray of Fox News. NBC admits Chuck Todd's Meet the Press deceptively edited Barr remarks on Flynn. If you don't want to be called fake news, American media maggots, stop being fake news. But you can't stop. Like an alcoholic can't stop drinking. And people in the BART stations, they're so high. NBC News' Chuck Todd aired a deceptively edited clip of Attorney General Bill Barr discussing the Michael Flynn case during his Meet the Press broadcast on Sunday. 2 days ago, prompting the network to concede. They were caught. In this case, a network actually conceded that, you caught us. All right, you caught us. We're guilty. So I found a before and after edited version of this. So what happened is that good old Chuck Todd on Meet Depressed took the context out of an answer that Bill Barr gave about his decision to drop the case into Mike Flynn. And so what you're going to hear is the edit, and then you're going to hear the full meal deal from the questions that were asked by Catherine Herridge. Okay, I want to make this clear up front. Catherine Herridge did not edit that video. She asked all the right questions, and she was given answers by Bill Barr. So this is what you heard from Chuck Todd on Sunday with others.
Bill Barr. Peggy Noonan, I want you to listen to this Bill Barr answer to a question about what will history say about this. Wait till you hear this answer. Take a listen.
When history looks back on this decision, how do you think it will be written?
Well, history's written by the winner, so it largely depends on who's writing the history.
I was struck, Peggy, by the cynicism of the answer.
Okay, no, that's where it ends, right? And so Chuck Dodd is struck by the cynicism.
Sir, it's a correct answer, but he's the Attorney General. He didn't make the case that he was upholding the rule of law. He was almost admitting
Chuck,
that, this is a...
Chuck, but wait, there's more. Let's listen.
This is a political job.
When history looks back...
This is the full meal
on
deal.
This decision, how do you think it will be written?
Well, history's written by the winner, so it largely depends on who's writing the history. But I think a fair history would say it was a good decision because it upheld the rule of law. It upheld the standards of the Department of Justice, and it undid what was an injustice.
Imagine that. That's the full cut containing all the appropriate context. That was the NBC's American Media Maggot hit job on William Barr, because he had the guts to do his damn job. And that all stemmed, of course, when the DOJ decided to drop charges against General Michael Flynn. But even before that, documents were unsealed on April 30th indicating the collusion really occurred with the FBI regarding General Flynn. Greg Jarrett wrote a great piece about that. And what he wrote was this: FBI's actions in Michael Flynn case should send a chill down your spine. As I said, if you're not pissed off, you're not paying attention. Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett said Thursday the explosive new internal FBI documents unsealed Wednesday evening in the government's case against former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn are the most outrageous and unethical actions by government officials that he has seen in over 40 years of practicing law. If you go to my blog, you can read all the documents there. But then here's what happened with Michael Flynn.
Fox News alert, brand new documents have just been unsealed in the Michael Flynn case, which is popping wide open once again. This comes on the heels of his attorney, Sidney Powell, who filed a motion to vacate his guilty plea, arguing that her client was, quote, deliberately set up and framed by corrupt agents at the top of the FBI. And Attorney General Barr pushed a review of this case. All of this is coming together tonight. And joining me now to break down these brand new documents that just came in, Fox News contributor and former federal prosecutor Andy McCarthy.
Now, just out of curiosity, did you guys know that Andy McCarthy, who is a great writer, was a federal prosecutor, which is why I tend to believe what it is that he says when he weighs in with his opinion on all sorts of matters.
Good to have you with us tonight to go over these. Now, the names on some of these emails include Peter Strzok, Lisa Page. They refer to the DD, which I'm assuming is the Deputy Director, Andrew McCabe. And it goes through, sort of things that you should be ready to answer of Michael Flynn when you go in there for the interview. And then I just want to show everybody at home a couple of the pieces of what's in these documents. So this question says, what is our goal? Truth, admission, or to get him to lie so we can prosecute him and get him fired? That is one that stands out. Here's another one. If we're seen playing games, White House will be furious. Protect our institution by not playing games. So, Andy, as you go through these, explain to everybody at home why they're so significant.
Okay, by the way, just thought I'd tell you, as I was listening to that, hey, I have the documents right here. You can go onto the internet and find them out. Here are a bunch of the emails. Here's an email with all sorts of redactions. You can read this. Another email, questions. Here are the notes that were written, essentially saying, okay, let's put Flynn in a perjury trap, because that's exactly what this was. More notes. More notes. So don't just believe me. Go to the internet. Go look at all this stuff for yourself. It's out there. That's why we have the internet. That's why you listen to me and I play things like this.
Martha, I think what we're seeing is a meticulously planned out scheme to try to get a 33.
He's being kind. Scheme. It was a soft coup.
Year combat vet United States to say something that was inaccurate so that they'd have a basis to try to get him fired. They did not have a legitimate investigative reason for doing this. There was no criminal predicate. There was no reason to treat him like a criminal suspect. They did the interview outside the established protocols of how the FBI is supposed to interview someone on the White House staff. They're supposed to go through the Justice Department and the White House counsel's office. They obviously purposely did not do that. And they were clearly trying to make a case on this. For years, a number of us have been arguing that.
By the way, are you wondering why, like I was? I'm going to tell you tonight.
This looked like a perjury trap. We're now seeing the paper trail.
Thank you, Andrew.
Start to catch up with what common sense has said for a long time.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody something that James Comey said when he was asked about this interview that happened with Michael Flynn at the White House. Let's play that.
You look at this White House now, and it's hard to imagine two FBI agents ending up in the same room. How did that?
Okay, if this isn't quintessential James Comey, and I'm going to play this again. This is all you need to know about James Comey. Forthright? Wrong.
That happened.
I sent them. Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration. The FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official. You would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals, and it would be there. And I thought it's early enough. Let's just send a couple guys over.
Yeah, let's just send a couple guys over in.
And did you hear the audience? The audience thought that was some funny stuff. Hey, James Comey, what a great guy you are. And then Jim Jordan happened to weigh in on this.
Columbus, Ohio, Republican congressman from that great state, Jim Jordan, ranking member of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Jim,
on the documents unsealed, by the way, the ones I was just holding in my hands.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
You know, you've kind of been talking about this for a long time. It now looks, now that we've seen the documents with our own two eyes, it looks like somebody at the FBI and the Department of Justice was out to get Flynn, get him, essentially entrap him, have him tell a lie, charge him on that, prosecute him on that, so that they could get rid of him and embarrass the Trump administration. A gut punch just at the time of the inauguration.
Yeah, no, it was worse than we thought. Remember what happened here, Steve? The FBI in 2016 spies on 2 American citizens associated with the Trump campaign. For one of those citizens, they go to the secret court, the FISA court. They take the now famous dossier. The dossier they knew was salacious and unverified. The dossier that they knew was not true. They used that as the basis to get the warrant to spy on one of these individuals. They don't tell the court that the dossier is Russian disinformation. They don't tell the court that it was paid for by the Clinton campaign. And they don't tell the court the guy who wrote it, Christopher Steele, had already told the Justice Department he was desperate to stop Trump. And now we learn they go after Mike Flynn and set him up just days into the new administration. What I want to know is, why didn't Bob Mueller tell us this? Remember, in May of 2017, when Bob Mueller's named special counsel, we were told this is the greatest guy who's ever come to Washington. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's the most honest guy since George Washington. Why didn't he tell us this? And maybe more importantly, where's Christopher Wray? Why didn't we learn any of this from him? Thank goodness.
Okay, for those of you who say that Christopher Wray should be allowed a length of rope, we should be giving some excuses for Christopher Wray. No, we shouldn't. He's just about damn near the same thing as Comey. I worked for the FBI. This is not my FBI. There are many, many agents that are very chagrined and disappointed. And just like people on my department, though, another major reason, people keep telling me the FBI. Excuse the Indians, it's the chiefs that were doing this. No, it's the culture of the FBI. You don't talk about the FBI out of the store, out of the market. You don't do it. Because the other aspect of it is you'll get your clock cleaned. They don't do whistleblowers. You like your job today? Not so much tomorrow.
For Sidney Powell and Bill Barr, we would have never got this information.
True. So let me ask you, when you look at these underlying documents that Sidney Powell requested that the Attorney General Sessions didn't, that Barr has been offensive, where Sessions seemed to be catatonic. I don't know what he was doing. Do you wonder, did Mueller
aren't there certain things that are in the Trump timeline that make you wonder just what the hell Trump was thinking, and why did he tolerate these things for so long? He said something similar to, this is not an exact quote, Sessions was one of the first guys to come out and endorse Donald Trump. And I think he thought he owed Sessions something. Sessions was kvetching that he believed that he should be Attorney General. And I think Trump said, not exactly knowing how D.C. works yet, said something similar to, okay, Jeff Sessions was the weakest link in the chain. If you can't as a law enforcement officer or someone who is a measurer of individuals. If you can't look and listen to Jeff Sessions and not conclude that he's an absolute go nowhere, do nothing, no load individual, I feel sorry for you. And then I felt sorry for Trump taking that crap from Sessions. He is a zero. Well, of course, hindsight being 20/20.
What makes me think he does is because he discovered that Strzok was having an affair with Page and said these guys got to go because of these text messages. How did he not see these other documents when they were actually working?
Great question, Brian. I have no idea. Bob Mueller had 19 lawyers, 40 FBI agents, $30 million, and 2 years to do this, and we're just now learning it. Thank goodness Bill Barr put U.S. Attorney Jensen in charge of this to go back and look at the Mike Flynn situation. And again, thank goodness that Sidney Powell has been pushing for this, or we wouldn't get this information.
Okay, for those who do not know, Sidney Powell is the attorney for Michael Flynn.
And again, I come back to, why didn't we learn this from Chris Wray? Chris Wray testified in front of the Judiciary Committee 2 months ago in February, and he told us with this whole FISA process, you can all sleep well at night. We got it all under control. Well,
Bullshit.
Guess what? We just learned this information about General Flynn, and just as importantly, Mr. Horowitz told us just 4 weeks ago. He's looked at 29 FISA applications, random sample of 29 FISA applications where American citizens have been spied on, and he found that in every single one there were major problems. In 4 of those 29, they couldn't even find the Woods file, which is the underlying file they keep of the evidence that they then take to the FISA court. In 4 of those cases, they couldn't even find the Woods file, and the FBI director is telling us, oh, we can all sleep well at night. This, I mean, again, if they can do this to a 3-star general, if they can do this to the President of the United States, imagine what they can do to you and me. And more importantly, imagine what they can do to the 750,000 people I get the privilege of representing in the 4th District of Ohio. That is what's so troubling about all this. And Christopher Wray needs to tell us what he's been up to this 2.5 years that he's been director of the FBI.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Take politics out of this. This is a man's life. This is a general who fought for our country for 3 decades, has 2 kids, has a family. This has cost him millions of dollars.
Okay, and that's the deal. That's the deal. If you didn't already know, I'll tell you right now, when you have a federal prosecutor in a case like this and you're focused on an individual, the point is to break these people, to break you on any number of levels. Flynn's son was threatened. His livelihood was threatened. His family was threatened. He had to sell his house, went bankrupt, and all along, knowing full well the FBI agents had initially said, no, we don't think that Michael Flynn is lying. Then it was Peter Strzok, by the way, who fanned the flames to keep this going. If you didn't happen to know that as well. There are some things that have been revealed by Trey Gowdy, and there was a time not long ago when I was a great Trey Gowdy fan. There's nothing like watching Trey Gowdy interview or attempt to skewer somebody in Congress. Trey Gowdy says this now about the documents and the FBI.
So after the bombshell FBI notes revealed these telling comments as agents prepared to go to the White House to interrogate National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn, telling him that he didn't need a lawyer, not to worry about that. They had written on, Bill Presap, who was head of counterintelligence at the FBI, wrote this on a piece of paper. What is our goal? Truth, admission, or to get him to lie so we can prosecute him and get him fired?
That was the goal. Now, the FBI says we're not political. We're absolutely unbiased and apolitical. And I think you can see clearly that's a load of crap. For the rest of the show, by the way, all I'm going to do at the top of the hour break, folks, is this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And here is Trey Gowdy continuing.
Lawyers and former agents are coming to the defense of the Bureau, including the lawyer for the Ukraine whistleblower, saying this, quote, the FBI notes reveal consideration of routine law enforcement interview tactics and by no means undercut General Flynn's prior admissions of lying to the FBI, a felony, and accepting full responsibility for his actions. To which Kim Strassel at the Wall Street Journal fired back, as for liberal commentators, legal scholars saying that all of this is routine, well, let's sure as hell hope not. The FBI exists to investigate crimes, not create them.
Bingo. Thank you, Kimberly Strassel. Because I know how this works.
That from Kim Strassel at the Journal. Here now, Trey Gowdy, Fox News contributor and former chairman of the House Oversight Committee. Trey, welcome. Good to have you here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
What do you think? Were the notes and was the investigation of General Michael Flynn at the White House routine for the FBI and for the agents who carried it out?
I hope not, Martha. And if it is routine, then why didn't they apply the same standard to Hillary Clinton that they did to Michael Flynn? I mean, if you go back, so Flynn's under investigation in the summer of 2016, a counterintelligence investigation. The FBI found nothing. They didn't find an insufficient amount of evidence. They found no evidence. And they're about to close this investigation, and then he has the conversation with Kislyak. So Comey decides to send bureau agents to the White House. Why? I mean, that's the fundamental question. Were you investigating a crime, the Logan Act, which there's never been a prosecution under that act, or were you conducting a counterintelligence investigation? If it's a criminal interview, then why did you treat him so differently from the way you did Hillary Clinton? Remember, Martha, she had a medium-sized law firm in the room with her. They gave the questions to her lawyers before they interviewed her, and they most assuredly told her there's a consequence for lying, none of which they did for Michael Flynn.
So I spoke with KT McFarland last night, who was his...
See, here's the thing that I find incredibly frustrating. Fact after fact after fact after irrefutable fact that inherently you and I intuited about what was going on with General Flynn. And I'll go back to my original theory, which is this was a soft coup against a presidential nominee, a president-elect, and a sitting president. We intuited that all along because we utilize common sense. No one else seemed to have this, which meant that all of this, every last bit of it, was agendized. It was bias, political, incredible political bias.
This deputy, General Flynn's deputy, and she says, that it really, beyond Flynn, they were hoping that if they pressed him hard enough and put him in a tough enough position and held some of his earlier comments against what he said there, that he would flip on President Trump, that he would give up some goods on the president. Do you agree?
Well, I do for this reason. There's also a notation in these.
Look, I'll tell you this. I'm not speaking out of school when I say that. That's the goal in almost every federal investigation. Flip, go up. Flip, go up. Federal agents and federal agencies don't believe in fresh arrests. So if you think an FBI agent goes out into, whatever area he or she walks amongst and they put the collar on someone, that's not how it works. They do a pre-investigation, then they do an investigation. They write it down on all the 302s and the inserts. I'll tell you about inserts later that they don't want you to know about, which are not essentially discoverable. Having said that, you don't make arrests. You run everything through the AUSA, the Assistant U.S. Attorney, or perhaps you're monitored by the U.S. Attorney in your district. Oh, there is so much more to this.
Documents released this week to use that defensive briefing as a pretense, as a ruse. So everyone that's offered a defensive briefing by the FBI, keep that in mind. They may be interviewing you. Remember, Comey did the same thing with Trump. He gave this defensive...
Okay, let me say this once. I won't say it the rest of the show. I never thought I would be in a position to say this. Never speak to the FBI without an attorney. Ever. Do not let them frighten you. Do not let them cow you, because if they will pull this on a general in the United States, Michael Flynn, they won't think a second, a microsecond about cutting you off at the knees. Whether you deserve it or not, just as this instance. Never speak to the FBI without an attorney. They have proven now, time and again, they are not trustworthy.
A briefing on the dossier, but he was really interviewing him. They still thought Donald Trump was colluding with Russia when they went to interview with Michael Flynn. So I have every expectation they wanted to flip Flynn. The problem was no one with the campaign was colluding with Russia. It wasn't Flynn, it wasn't Trump, it wasn't Papadopoulos. They were wrong about all four of their cross.
Here's the deal. I'm going to tell you why they went after Flynn, and it has a great deal to do with Susan Rice. It is so Machiavellian and convoluted. When I tell you this, you will be brain glazed. You will be stultified when I give you the reasons for this. But that's how these people think.
Crossfire hurricane targets.
Right. So how come when we heard from Robert Mueller and the investigation, 2 years and millions of dollars was finished and we got the report, where were these notes that we're seeing now?
They were not turned over. They have to be turned over if you're going to trial. There's a little bit of, will tell you, Brady does not implicate guilty pleas. So when Michael Flynn said, I'm going to plead, they didn't have to turn over the notes. The department of, let's see if we can get away with it. And it's not the department of, let's see who we can get fired. It is the Department of Justice. Sally, Republican, was infuriated when she found out what Comey had done. So that's the Department of Justice. We don't care if you're an R or D or we don't. We're going to treat you the same. Mueller's folks did not turn over these documents, but they had to.
Stop. Tell you this. This is the truth. This is how it goes in D.C. Well, let's revisit this. Former FBI Director Jimmy the Leak Comey say in 2019 about to the White House. He could. And overall, he thinks this is fun. He thinks
House now, and it's hard to imagine 2 FBI agents ending up in the sit room. How did that happen?
I sent them.
And thinks he's a riot.
Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration.
Okay, so right there he admits he does not treat everyone the same. Does he? That's bias. This is politics. Therefore, I know it's amazing to conclude that's political bias.
Wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official. You would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals and who would be there. Right. And I thought it's early enough. Let's just send a couple guys over.
That Comey, what a comedian. James Comey, comedian at large, 6'8", comedian at large. Never before have I essentially had the displeasure to see such a sanctimonious, hypocritical law enforcement officer in my life. He is right. He is more sacrosanct and more devout than you will ever be. And he'll tell you so all day long.
FBI Director James Comey is praising Special Counsel Robert Mueller, both principled and fair in his handling of the Russian.
What do we know about Robert Mueller? Did you listen to Trey Gowdy? That's Robert Mueller.
Report. Comey's
I'm sorry, my mistake. Mueller.
Memoir, A Higher Loyalty, Truth, Lies, and Leadership, has just come out in paperback, and he says that he hopes the new edition is more accessible.
Ding, ding, ding. Wait, hold on. This just in, an assload of FBI agents think he's corrupt as hell. They didn't want to say much, but that's what they really think of him. He destroyed their once beloved FBI.
To young people, and that inspires them to follow a path of ethical leadership. The release comes ahead of an explosive report revealing new details on President Trump's tax returns. The New York Times finds that the president lost more than $1 billion in business dealings from 1985 to 1994. In part 2 of the 3-part conversation, my colleagues Vladimir Duthier and Anne-Marie Green spoke with Comey about whether the president's taxes would be of interest to this special counsel.
I don't know. Maybe not because of the way he understood his mandate.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
This is something
Explain.
that a lot of folks have missed.
Okay. The president's taxes, folks, keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eye on what Comey says, not what's actually happening. Do you see how all of this is nothing but a distraction? It is a distractive move from redstate.com. New documents tie Obama into effort against Flynn. Biden was also in the room. You hear about this? This is from a story just from the 7th, May 7th, a couple of days ago. Nick Arama writes, you can make the judgment call here, but this does not look good for former President Barack Obama. Do you think? According to the newly released documents from the Department of Justice, former Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates learned about the effort against General Michael Flynn from Obama himself. Let me read that to you from those who just tuned in. According to documents, not hearsay, documents from the DOJ, former Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates learned about the effort against General Michael Flynn from Obama himself. But how can you discover information if you fail, as clearly the American media maggots have purposely failed to do, to even ask a basic question? And so Nick writes, and even after all this time, has anyone asked Obama or Biden, what did you know and when did you know it? Here's John Solomon. I think he's an excellent journalist. He writes at Just the News. Schiff releases transcripts undercutting Democrat claims, I said that, not him, okay, of Russian collusion proof. FBI officials admit they knew Papadopoulos had little contact with Russians, but opened a probe anyway. DNC-connected lawyer reveals CIA contact. You can go into my blog. You can read all about this. And then I've got a link to the Russian investigation transcripts and the documents. So, agents then decided they were going to pivot to another advisor instead of Papadopoulos, Carter Page, who'd been the focus of Christopher Steele's dossier, his dirty dossier. If it was one of the few extraordinary admissions from McCabe, the FBI opened up an entire counterintelligence probe of the Trump campaign on a figure agents did not believe was having contact with Moscow. But wait. Okay, it's all a big nothing burger that Schiff had to cover up. So Schiff said this. In releasing the transcripts Thursday, the current Democratic House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff claimed they provided proof of nefarious connections between Russians and Trump associates. Nefarious connections, folks. The transcripts released today richly detail evidence of the Trump campaign's efforts to invite, make use of, and cover up Russia's help in the 2016 presidential election. Except what we found in the documents was this. I'm going to go down individual by individual, and this is what they said, and this is why Schiff didn't want you to know. James Clapper. In fact, witnesses were repeatedly pressed to offer specific evidence of a conspiracy between Trump and Russia and could offer none, saying it was either too preliminary or they just didn't have any evidence. Clapper. I never saw any direct empirical evidence that the Trump campaign or someone in it was plotting or conspiring with the Russians to meddle with this election. Former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper told lawmakers. That's not to say there weren't concerns about the evidence we were seeing. Anecdotal evidence. But Clapper added, I do not recall any instance where I had direct evidence. Loretta Lynch. Former AG Loretta Lynch testified By the time she left office in January of 2017, the case was more than 6 months old. She was unaware of any direct evidence of collusion. I don't recall anything being brought up to me, and it's just my recollection of that at this point. Certainly, the information that was given in the redacted, whatever that was concerning to me and indicated that there was a goal to have coordinated activity, she said. But the point is, I didn't see any evidence. Sally Yates, former acting Attorney General Sally Yates, she worked for both Obama and Trump initially, acknowledged that there'd been no determination of any conspiracy to collude before she was fired. Her winding answer was typical of many of the witnesses. Sally Yates, I think you need to learn, if you want to get to the bottom line, whether there was collusion, conspiracy, or coordination, if I got the 3 C's right, then you also need to learn about who had contact, because you can't get to that collusion, the 3 C's there, until you figure out who's had contact with who. So pressed to be more specific, Sally Yates conceded there was no finding. I don't believe anybody had reached a conclusion yet as to whether there was a nefarious alliance with the Russians. We were at the fact-gathering stage here, not the conclusion stage. Mary McCord, the former Assistant Attorney General for National Security, she testified. By the time she left the department a year into the probe, there was no evidence that anyone from the Trump campaign had conspired with Russia to hack DNC or Clinton campaign officials. This is a quote. I can't recall if there was any information or evidence at the time I left about conspiring to take part in actual intrusion. Andrew McCabe, former Assistant Director of the FBI. What's the most damning or important piece of evidence in the disaster that you know now to be true? McCabe was asked during an interview. Well, he said, as I tried to explain before, there's a lot of information in Steele reporting. We have not been able to prove the accuracy of the information. So he was pressed further, Andy McCabe, to confirm that he didn't know if Christopher Steele's dossier was true. And he said, yeah, that's correct. Ben Rhodes, when asked under oath by House investigators if he had any evidence of coordination between the Trump campaign and Russia, Rhodes said he didn't. I wouldn't have received any information or any criminal or counterintelligence investigations into what the Trump campaign was doing, so I would not have seen that information, Rhodes said. Pressed again on the topic, he said, I saw indications of potential coordination, but I didn't see, the specific evidence of the actions of the Trump campaign. Samantha Power, former U.S. ambassador to the UN. She publicly accused Trump of catering to Russian President Vladimir Putin to compensate him for interfering in the 2016 election. But when speaking under oath to House investigators, she sings a different tune. Asked whether she'd seen evidence of Russian interference, she said, quote, I am not in possession of anything. I am not in possession and didn't read or absorb information that came from out of the intelligence community. Susan Rice, former National Security Advisor Susan Rice, told ABC's The Week in July 2018 that questioning if President Trump was compromised by Russians was legitimate, because Putin was benefiting by the commander-in-chief's policy decisions. Less than a year earlier, Rice told House investigators that she hadn't seen evidence proving then-candidate Trump coordinated or colluded with Russia to take the 2016 election. I don't recall intelligence that I would consider evidence to that effect that I saw prior to my departure, she said. So the American media maggots also did their jobs on behalf of Russia, as you know they would. So CNN and MSNBC, when that information came out, they didn't have a really good they didn't have a good day. And so this is their umbrage.
It's a pretty dark place on social media. The very first comment after the story broke that I saw on Twitter was, Putin, if you're listening, high five your asset. And there are Russian flags and Russian memes popping up.
And now we see Bill Barr really just doing Donald Trump's dirty work.
Now he has in his back pocket a little AG who saw to it to let Flynn go.
It is, I think, breathtaking dishonesty from the Justice Department. This is the collapse of the Justice Department.
Katyal, you caught my breath with the collapse of the Justice Department.
This is a case where the fix was in.
The fix is in.
Not good for the rule of law. It's not good for morale.
Duvadic.
And it's not a fair outcome.
This is an absolute injustice.
I don't worry anyone who cares about the rule of law.
Mike Flynn's lawyers have been engaged in a smear campaign.
This is a political and...
Okay, so if you defend yourself now, according to the American media maggots, that's a smear campaign. Yeah. The Federalist. Obama-Biden Oval Office meeting on January 5th was key to the entire Trump operation. Susan Rice's bizarre Inauguration Day email about that meeting helps explain the campaign of leaks, lies, and obstruction that follows. Remember that convoluted email? I'm going to tell you about a convoluted email. And like I said, I'm going to explain to you one of the actually myriad of reasons that they decided to target Flynn. In my blog post, it goes into detail about that. Read the article. It goes step by step in a clear timeline delineating everything. But Obama was there. A clear picture is emerging of the drastic steps that were taken to accomplish Obama's goal in the following weeks and months. High-level operatives began intensely looking at selective information supporting a supposed Russia-Trump conspiracy theory. The National Security Advisor was ambushed. The incoming Attorney General was forced to recuse himself. Remember Jeff Sessions? At each major point in the operation, explosive media leaks were a key strategy in all of that. Leaks. And so now, if you know anything about psychology, I call this projection. So, by dropping the case against Flynn, the Justice Department lost it. This is Adam Shifty Schiff. Lost 50 years ground. Bill Barr is doing Trump's dirty work. Adam, do you have anything to say?
Adam Schiff, Democrat of California, who is the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. First, let me just ask your reaction to the Department of Justice's move here.
This is MSNBC.
Chris, I think we lost 50 years worth of ground in solidifying the independence of the Justice Department after Watergate. It puts us back in the category of almost an emerging democracy where the rule of law is not yet firmly established, where prosecutorial decisions are made on the basis of politics.
Right. Why, Adam? Why? Because you lost.
Here, Bill Barr once again doing the political dirty work for the president in making a case go away that the president tried to get Jim Comey to make go away and then fired him when he wouldn't. Tried to get Jeff Sessions to make go away and he wouldn't. And now he's found his man in Bill Barr, who is craven enough to do whatever the president wants. What this will mean as a practical matter is in courtrooms all across the country where prosecutors are bringing legitimate cases, juries will now wonder, is this really a valid case, or is this, Bill Barr's Justice Department once again acting politically, not in the interest of justice? So he's undermining his own people all around the country, and at the same time, it's a continuation of the same kind of political patronage now in the Justice Department that Donald Trump has brought about.
Political patronage. Here's a funny thought. I said last week, you know who we haven't heard from? North Carolina's Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, or investigator. Durham, we haven't heard of him. He's been shockingly quiet. My guess would be he's working. My guess would be, Schiff, you don't know. We don't know the tip of...
It's also noteworthy to me that that prosecutor took his name off the case. We saw this happen with Roger Stone, similar sort of set of circumstances. The president publicly tweeting the guy got a raw deal. In that case, it wasn't that he pleaded guilty. He was convicted. There was a trial, and he was convicted by a jury.
I'll tell you that all the leftist Democrats and American media maggots love that, because what were these crimes of? When you do the analysis, these were crimes of process. And all set direct evidence indicating that these were aligned with Russia to corrupt Trump. There wasn't a thing involved with this. Mueller got these guys because they were silly or foolish enough or didn't fit the agenda and didn't provide all the information. But there was no there when they were convicted of process. And again, that's what the FBI does.
One, retiring from the Justice Department, leaving the Justice Department altogether. What's the significance?
Roger Stone, let's admit it. Roger Stone was frequently his worst enemy, his own worst enemy.
To you of this split between the political leadership in the Department of Justice, essentially doing the political dirty work of the president, and the line prosecutors and civil servants that serve in that department, and what they should be doing right now.
Okay, stop. I think I've heard about enough of Schiff. Remember, and I don't even remember who said this, it may have been me, that when the Democrats accuse you, meaning Republicans or conservatives, of something, what that means is that's what they're doing right now. Hello, squirrel. Doug the dog. One of the biggest questions, of course, is this. Somebody's gonna fold. Who is gonna fold first? Who's gonna try to cut a deal with the DOJ first? Because whoever makes that decision is gonna get the cushiest deal of all. And the rest are gonna find themselves out in the cold. So I think everybody's waiting to see, play it as it lays. So I want you to listen to this, and you tell me, is this weakness? Is this James Clapper being weak? Is he going to be the one? BZ, what are you talking about? Well, here's our good friend James Clapper. And Clapper essentially says in this cut, well, the black man made me do it.
The message I'm getting from all this is apparently what we were supposed to have done was to ignore the Russian interference, ignore the Russian meddling and the threat that it poses to us. And oh, by the way, blown off what the then Commander-in-Chief, the President Obama, told us to do, which was to assemble all the reporting that we could, that we had available to us, and put it in one report that the president could pass on to the Congress and to the next administration. And while we're at it, declassify as much as we possibly could to make it public. And that's what we did. And it's kind of disconcerting now to be investigated for, having done our duty and done what we were told to do by the president.
Done what we were told to do by the president. Is that Jimmy Clapper tossing Barack Hussein Obama under the bus? First to cut a deal? Is he going to be the first to want to cut a deal? Because if you remember, that's the same James Clapper who, in case you don't remember who you're listening to or where we are...
Conservative media done right. You're listening to Work.
Tonight I am having a special report. I'm BZ, the bloviating Zeppelin. I am in the Saloon, BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. And the special tonight is Flynn. It proves a soft coup. Now, I was talking about James Clapper, and I was talking about him lying in front of Congress back in 2013. Wait, what did Jimmy say?
The NSA director was at a conference, and he was asked a question about the NSA surveillance of Americans. He replied, and I quote here, "The story that we have millions or hundreds of millions of dossiers on people is completely false."
Right.
The reason I'm asking the question is, having served on the committee now for a dozen years, I don't really know what a dossier is in this context. So what I wanted to see is if you could give me a yes or no answer to the question, does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
Okay, I wish you could see the body language. James Clapper is clutching his bald head, glasses on, then takes them off, and he won't even look at the guy that's asking the question. He's looking down at his desk. That's a series, that's a cluster of responses in the courses that I went to that Paul Ekman gave about micro expressions. Stand by, hold on. This guy's about to lie his ass off.
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly. There are cases where they could inadvertently, perhaps, collect, but not wittingly.
Yeah, I'm sure you believe that. So, the world's worst story came out just 6 days ago, May 7th. Politico dropped it this way. DOJ drops criminal case against Michael Flynn. The move comes after the president and his allies stepped up their assault on the legal case. So if you defend yourself, that's an assault. I thought leftist Democrats in the American media maggots said something similar to defending yourself is a right. Everyone has a right to the rule of law, to defense. No, the move comes after the president and his allies stepped up their assault on the legal national security advisor. Okay. This was clearly a Mark I, Model I perjury trap, plain and simple, because I've seen him, I've worked him plainly and clearly. He just didn't say those specific two words, but you heard what he said. Trap General Flynn. For what? Okay, here's where I tell you. Because at the conclusion of this, like me, I want you to say, what the fuck just happened? The Russia probe transcripts came out like this. It was all about Russian collusion. Okay. You want to talk about Machiavellian? How's this for convoluted? Remember that email that we talked about earlier? Susan Rice put this email out. The CYA cover your ass email. The famed Susan Rice cover your ass email. Sent at the end of the Obama regime. So we found out from transcripts that this is part of what she wrote. You're going to have to listen closely to this because this is how screwed up their thinking was. And this, to them, is a rationale for going after Michael Flynn. General Flynn's focus was on China as our principal overarching adversary. He, meaning General Flynn, had many questions and concerns about China. And when I, meaning Susan Rice, sought to elicit his perspective on Russia, he, meaning Flynn, downplayed his assessment of Russia as a threat to the United States. He called it overblown. He said they're a declining power, that they're demographically challenged, that they're not really much of a threat. And then, wait a minute. If I had a producer, you would hear where and then he said he reemphasized the importance of China. I had seen enough, Susan Rice said at that point, and heard enough to be a little bit sensitive to the question of the nature of General Flynn's engagements with the Russians. Okay. Try to follow this now. Try to follow this thinking. The Obama regime and Susan Rice believed General Flynn had to be Putin's poodle because he was correctly, as we know, as definitely is confirmed now, Flynn was emphasizing the threat and danger that China would present to the United States, while also at the same time indicating Russia was and is a world stage has-been, thus proving General Flynn was a Russian stooge, and he required targeting, but mostly because Flynn was a clear threat. You don't hear much about this. Flynn planned to revamp pretty much all of the 17 intelligence agencies, and to them, you want to hear about an existential threat? To the intelligence agencies, he became an existential threat to all of them. Jobs could be lost. Power could be lost. Control would possibly be lost. What's a mother to do? And so the Obama administration, they all agreed, yeah, this bastard's got to go. Well, let's go back for a moment. Let's jump in the Wayback Machine just for a second. Let's go back to 2017 and the very, very truthful Marie Harf, Obama devotee extraordinaire. Marie Harf, by the way, if you don't remember, Marie Harf was an ex-Obama era spokesperson at the Department of State. So she has drunk all the Obama Kool-Aid. She claimed in July of 2017 that it's not true that the dossier was used to acquire a FISA warrant. Oh, no.
Well, I'm very impressed with Molly's ability to spin a conspiracy theory out of this. There is not any evidence to support what she's putting forward. Look, I think it's interesting. It was certainly salacious when it came out. But I would disagree with something she just said. This dossier, while it got a lot of attention, isn't actually what the Russia investigations are about right now. They're about all these meetings that Trump officials had with the Russians that they were not honest about. They're about possible ties, and nothing may come from those investigations, but let's be very clear. They're not based on that dossier. I have no idea who paid for it. I have no idea where any of this came from. But I suspect there's some attempt in Congress right now on the Republican side to use this dossier and some of these conspiracy theories to distract from the Russia investigation.
In fact, this dossier was used by the FBI to secure a FISA warrant against an American citizen. It was also used by Obama officials in intelligence agencies to really get this whole Russia conspiracy going.
True.
That's not true, Molly. I was in the administration. That's absolutely not true.
Oh, Marie Harf, were they lying to you too?
Bro, we thought this was a funny, salacious thing. The Russia investigation started because of a bunch of other issues not related.
Okay, I'm going to put you into the silly-ass bint category. How about that? While we're in the Wayback Machine, though, folks, let's go back to 2018. And this article from, let's see, what is this from? Washington Examiner, the WashingtonExaminer.com. Byron York wrote this. Memo. FBI recommended Michael Flynn not have lawyer present during interview, did not warn of false statement consequences. Well, they knew what they were doing before they walked in there. Hell, Jimmy the Leak Comey told them. Former FBI Director Andrew McCabe, who arranged the Bureau's interview with then National Security Advisor Michael Flynn at the White House on January 24, 2017, the interview that would ultimately lead to Flynn's guilty plea on one count of making false statements, suggested Flynn not have a lawyer present at the session according to newly filed court documents. And now, do you see why I say to you, if you should ever come across the FBI and they want to talk to you, What's one of the first things that they're going to go for? You lied to us. Well, you can't be caught for lying if you say one word. What is that, BZ? Lawyer. Can anybody say perjury trap again? Hands? Okay, hands? Anybody? Hands? Bueller? Chief conspirator himself, Barack Hussein Obama, he weighed in recently. I think it was this week on the DOJ dropping the Flynn investigation. So, this is kind of a side observation. Ever notice how Barack Hussein Obama isn't the so-called brilliant orator when a teleprompter doesn't happen to be around? So this is, I think Obama was speaking to Yahoo News. I want to know this. Barack Obama's been gone for over 3 years. Why is a former president, number 44, this is a quote, you'll hear it, pretty darn invested in the outcome of a DOJ probe into illegal spying on Trump's campaign? Why isn't he, I don't know, maybe having a three-way with Valerie Jarrett and Michelle Maibel in the house that he had built in D.C., because, walls don't do anything, which immediately the first thing he did when he bought the house is put up walls. So, Barack, what do you think, dude? Up to you. Go for it.
The degree to which the news over the last 24 hours, I think, has been somewhat downplayed about the Justice Department dropping charges against Michael Flynn.
Right. Nobody's been talking about it.
And the fact that there is no precedent that anybody can find for someone who's been charged with perjury.
Right.
Just getting off scot-free. That's the kind of stuff where you...
Like you, Barack. Scot-free like you, Barack. Jeremy Hansen, welcome to see you in Facebook chat. Melanie, nice to see you in Facebook chat. Linda, glad to see you in Facebook chat. Barack, keep going.
You begin to get worried that basic, not just institutional norms, but our basic understanding of rule of law
out with
is
come on
is at risk.
A risk.
And when you start moving in those directions, it can accelerate pretty quickly, as we've seen in other places. So I am hoping.
Okay. Stop right there. What can accelerate really quickly? What the hell did he just say? What?
Moving in those directions.
What?
It can accelerate pretty quickly, as we've seen in other places. So.
Other places like Walmart? Frog Dick, North Dakota? Dallas. Huh? What?
I am hoping that all of you feel the same sense of urgency that I do.
Yeah.
I do. Whenever I've campaigned, I've always said, this is the most important election.
Right.
Especially, obviously, when I was on the ballot. That always feels like it's the most important election.
Sure.
This one, I'm not on the ballot, but I am pretty darn invested. We got to make this happen. The degree to
make what happen, Brock? Win? Cheat more? Why does Barack Hussein Obama care? His presidential ship has sailed. That's yesterday's news. Unless he somehow fears that orange really is the new blue. And speaking of Obama, why doesn't he want to let us see his archives? I know. Obama said that his was going to be the most transparent presidential administration in the history of history. So here's what really happened. Privately, Obama sends private letter to National Archives claiming confidentiality to not release Biden-Ukraine docs. Well, Obama, that was on the 10th of May, by the way. Barack, baby, I thought yours was the most transparent campaign, the most transparent presidential regime in the history of history. Former President Barack Obama has inserted himself into the Russia-Ukraine fiasco. Arguably, this was not the first time. While Democrats have been denying and protecting their guilt in creating and advancing the Russia hoax, there's evidence that suggests President Obama likely was aware of the probe. Fox News has obtained a letter from the office of former President Barack Obama to the National Archives and Records Administration, NARA, who manages presidential records. So, because we're good Americans, you always have to ask questions. Why would Obama, 4 years after leaving office, suddenly get involved? The letter to the National Archives was privately sent in March. And arguably, they did not want Fox News to obtain a copy. Nevertheless, the letter bashes Senate Republicans in their investigation of Hunter Biden's dealings with Ukraine. Hunter, the son of former Vice President Joe Biden, joined the Ukraine company during the Obama administration. So, I don't know. This doesn't sound very transparent to me. I could be wrong. Oh, hell, I've been wrong before. Many times, and I could be wrong on this. In retrospect, however, it appears the Obama administration was one of the most opaque in history. So, depending upon the prevailing prairie winds, the leftists and the American media maggots are always going to align with, alternately, okay, because you have to understand this, whenever it suits their purpose of working against President Trump, they're going to side with Russia when it suits their purpose, China when it suits their purpose, or that loving Nazi George Soros. George, Nazi George. Come on down. Let's hear what you have to say, George.
Clearly, I consider the Trump administration a danger to the world.
Danger.
But I regard it as a
world.
purely temporary phenomenon that will disappear in 2020 or even sooner.
Stop. Like me, does that give you motivation to get the hell out and vote? As I told you at the beginning of the first hour, we're now in the second hour. It's 9:20 on the left coast, which means it's 12:20 after midnight on the right coast. In Bolivia, it's 1749.723 subcluster 4, Grote 9 in Bolivian time. I could never understand Bolivian time. We better get out and vote in November. As I told you last week, and I also said on Ken McClinton's show last night, if you're allowed to vote by the LDAM, leftist Democrats and American media maggots, the closer you get to November, here are going to be the two memes thrown at you by the American media maggots and polls. Don't believe either one. The first one they're going to say is Trump is so far ahead. Because we've learned something from 2016. Trump is so far ahead, you don't need to show up at the polls. Or they're going to tell you, look, admit it. Trump is so far behind, your showing up at the polls isn't going to mean a thing. Both massive piles of steaming bullshit. Don't believe either one. And George Soros ought to be the motivator to, I'm going to kick you up in the butt, George, so hard that my toe is going to come out of your mouth. George?
I give President Trump credit for motivating his core supporters brilliantly.
That's me, that's you. Are you motivated to vote in November? I am.
But for every core supporter, he has created a greater number of core opponents who are equally strongly motivated. That's why I expect a Democratic landslide.
Okay. George Soros expects a Democratic landslide from their candidate who cannot string, apparently, two cogent sentences together congruently. While we're here, let's remind ourselves of what was said between Hillary Clinton and James Comey back in 2016. You know, like Crooked Hillary.
I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material.
110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information.
I am confident that I never sent nor received any information that was classified.
7 email chains concern matters that were classified at the...
Oh, wait. That makes me remember. This is not in show prep, but I got to do this anyway. Okay, I'm going to play this. I got about another minute and 15 seconds to go find this video, because now would be the perfect time. I think you guys already know what video I'm going to go searching for, but I'm going to go searching for it while I play the rest of this for you. So I got a minute. Can I do it? Can I find this video? Well, I don't know. Let's see.
The top secret special access program at the time they were sent and received.
I had not sent classified material nor received anything marked classified.
James Comey said none of those things that you told the American public were true.
Secretary Clinton said she never sent or received any classified information over her private email. Was that true?
Our investigation found that there was classified information sent.
So it was not true.
I made a mistake.
Secretary Clinton said there was nothing marked classified on her emails, either sent or received. Was that true?
That's not true.
None of those things were true.
There is no classified material. Was that true?
There was classified material emailed.
I made a mistake.
Was that true?
That's not true.
Was that true?
No.
Was that true?
That's not true.
Was that true?
No.
Oh, damn it. I couldn't find it. So when I play this, I got to go find it on YouTube. Okay, I have something else. Now, this is going to make you laugh too, because every time I hear this, don't worry. We'll get through all this stuff, folks. I hope Tuesday night, I hope right now that as you're listening to me, by the way, you're having your favorite beverage. If that happens to be an adult beverage, so be it. Just as well, because here is a press briefing that you may have managed to miss, but is an absolute classic. And as I play this, I'm going to try to find the other one. Okay? Let's see. Oh, God. And I got maybe a minute to find this one. Go. Okay? Let's see what we got.
I need a drink. Okay, idiots, are you ready? I just can't stand the faces of you people. Those dead, questioning eyes. You dummies don't matter. Greedo?
What happens when I scratch a horseradish all over my face?
Now, why would you do this?
Well, definitely gonna scrape it somewhere.
Yeah, you don't matter. Mangy?
Okay, my beard itches pretty bad. Is this because of my bugs?
You have literal bugs?
Uh-huh. I think it's mainly bed bugs.
Okay, you gotta go.
Wait, is this about the bugs?
Yeah, it is. Stank?
Yeah, when is the Roswell
you really thought I'd take your question? You suck.
Hey, the way you talk to me, I mean, do you need to talk so evil?
Do you need to look like a stuffed baked potato in that Walmart shirt? 'Cause you suck. Lanky?
It's been a whole hour since Kristen sat on my whistle.
I did not sit on it.
Then where's my whistle?
It's a really important issue. Chomp?
Yeah, what about guys like me, you know? Like, our eyes are really honest, but then our brain's got a violent virus.
I could not care less. Creature?
How can I tell if my Labrador is female?
Easy. You suck. Let's see. Sasquatch Steven.
Would you rub my feet if I tickled yours?
You're weird. Nah, nope.
Not even fun tickles?
What is that? Listen, I'm gonna punch you and I'll punch in your esophagus.
Great.
Chocolate curl?
You know how I was part of a gang that made bed quilts?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this one guy, Benji Binkelman, had this horrible breast problem.
Okay, so maybe we'll just wrap that up, turd.
What I really need is a craft table, a magic wand, and someone to feed me pickles.
Okay, Jeeves.
Do you feel you prefer ice sheets or maybe like summer rain?
Or I could feed you to the polar bears.
All right.
Gina. It's Gina. That's what I said. Gina. Gina. I'm sorry? Gina? Yeah, I don't know. Chachi? Stink leg? Bork? Varicose Ken? Disc jerk?
Hey, I'm crazy about you. When can I see you?
You know, never sounds like a good day.
Hey, I'm sensitive, yet dangerous, and I make nachos.
Okay, to be honest, I think that most people in the world will find you disappointing.
Why are you saying this?
Because you suck.
Wait a minute. Roast beef for sale, marriages for the lemonade. It's all we will get.
I'll bury you people.
Every day I worry.
Okay, that was White House press briefing. That gave me time to find this, because we were listening to Comey, right? So, what does this have to do with Flynn? Folks, it's my show. If I get a bee up my bonnet and want to go somewhere, I get to do this. Well, listening to Clinton and Comey made me think of this, okay? Please, indulge me.
Good morning. I'm here to give you an update on the FBI's investigation of Secretary Clinton. What I want to do is tell you what we're recommending, but first, let me tell you what we found. 110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined to contain classified information.
What difference at this point does it make?
8 of those chains are top secret, 36 of those chains secret, and 8 contain confidential information.
What difference at this point does it make?
Everything I did was permitted. There was no law, no regulation.
Secretary Clinton should have known that an unclassified system was no place for that conversation.
I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email.
None of these emails should have been on any kind of unclassified system, not even Gmail.
But first of all, nothing was marked classified.
To the contrary.
Nothing was marked classified.
There is evidence of
Nothing was marked classified.
Now let me tell you what we found. 110 emails.
It was not the best choice.
52 email chains.
It was the mistake.
Have been determined to contain classified information.
What difference at this point does it make?
8 of those chains are top secret.
It wasn't the best choice.
6 of those chains
I said it was a mistake.
and 8 contain confidential information.
What difference at this point does it make?
With respect to our recommendation, this is going to be an unusual statement in at least a couple of ways. Although there is evidence, our judgment is that no reasonable prosecutor would bring such a case. I know there will be intense public debate. I know there will be intense public debate. I know there will be intense public debate. What difference at this point does it make? 110 emails.
It wasn't the best choice.
52 email chains.
I made a mistake.
Have been determined to contain classified information.
What difference at this point does it make?
8 of those chains are top
It was not a good choice.
6 of those chains
I said it was a mistake.
and 8 contain confidential information.
What difference at this point does it make?
Make. Okay, it's my show, and I get to do that. And so let's review now that we've been entertained a bit how I happen to know that James Comey... Oh, I'm sorry. I told you that we were not going to have any commercials or breaks, but I do want to remind you of this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
So like I said, let's review how I knew Comey was a lying sack of crap back in 2016 and couldn't be trusted or believed from that point forward. And so I wrote about this in 2017 because that's when he gave his little briefing about Hillary Clinton. It was crystal clear from the evidence released by the FBI after that first investigation that Hillary Clinton used a private email server to transmit national security information. Rather, it was her duty to safeguard the information. She chose not to. She was required by law to do that. And she made a whole bunch of subsequent statements to the fact that, well, contrary to the facts that we learned about that. The real actor in that theater of the absurd back then was the Justice Department's decision to commence an investigation that, as far as I'm concerned, was a sham from the very beginning. It was the Justice Department itself that failed to convene a grand jury. They failed to issue search warrants. They failed to place witnesses under oath and appoint a special prosecutor who could operate free from conflicts of interest. Hey, kind of like Robert Mueller. What? Yeah. Then FBI Director James Comey, he was director then, he clears Hillary Clinton of all wrongdoing on July 5th. And we heard all sorts of, we heard that news conference. So Comey admits that Clinton lied, but here's the difference. You can lie publicly all you want if people are sufficiently stupid to believe it. Like much of the electorate and the American media maggots, they're doltish enough to go along with it. You shouldn't lie to the FBI. My guess is Hillary came relatively clean in those 3.5 hours that she had with the FBI. A cadre, a coterie of attorneys in drag, not wearing dresses, but just with her. Get your mind out of the gutter. So that's also why I believe she was not placed under oath. And the interview wasn't recorded. I bet you that there is no tape existing or video of that interview. Because things like that missing make it easier to dispute later when it's politically necessary. James Comey, however, subsequently outed himself to Jason Chaffetz. Chaffetz asked at one point, he said when he was talking to Comey, whether it was that he was just not able to prosecute it or that Clinton broke the law. So Comey said, this is an answer that is immutable. Well, I don't want to give an overly lawyerly answer. The question I always look at is there evidence that would establish beyond a reasonable doubt that somebody engaged in conduct that violated a criminal statute, and my judgment here is there is not. That's how and when I knew James Comey was lying through his teeth. This is him attempting to rationalize his decision. He states that he doesn't believe that case established guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Hold it. Newsflash. It's not up to you, Jimmy the Leak Comey, to assemble a case that yields a determination of beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay? That threshold is up to the DOJ, or more pointedly, a grand jury, not you, not your organization, not the FBI. All you got to do, all your Indians got to do is line them up. All you got to do is complete a case for submission. All you need for that case is probable cause. You don't need guilt established beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what real cops do, okay? That's what real DAs do in America. Their jobs. They stay in their lanes and they do their jobs. So I've said this time after time, and this is how, again, I knew that Comey was lying. There are two kinds of crimes as written by statute. Crimes of general intent and crimes of specific intent. Comey said that Hillary Rodham Clinton had to have, she had to possess a very specific intent to commit her crimes. Except that the U.S. codes applicable are not those of specific intent. How do you know it's a crime with specific intent? Very simple. In the body of the description of the crime, it says something really similar to with the intent to. Shocking. That's how a crime of specific intent is crafted. It's stated in the statute. So even more disturbing than that, AG attorney Loretta Lynch, she did not recuse herself from the final decision as to whether or not to prosecute the case. And she did not give that decision to a career prosecutor at the Department of Justice. She instead decided, AG Lynch, Loretta Lynch, decided that instead she was going to blindly accept the FBI's recommendation because it couldn't be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. That's not the FBI's job to do. Loretta, that's your job. The New York Times on July 1st, 2016, they said, Loretta Lynch said she would accept whatever recommendation career prosecutors and the FBI director made. Of course she would. Of course she would. The fix was in. Comey was predestined, to take whatever fall occurred as long as it wasn't her. He's white and male. She's black and female. Now, I mentioned earlier Trey Gowdy. But I want to submit something to you because I believe we have an actual hero in this story. That hero is Devin Nunes. He's from California. Always spell it with a K. Devin Nunes has been a terrier. He has been terrier-like with his tenacity to stay on top of this thing and do whatever it is that he could to push this through. With Flynn, with everything, with the dossier, with Trump, with Mueller, with Russia.
First, let's talk about these 53 transcripts that were released this week. What did we learn?
Well, we said for a long time that we had no evidence of collusion. One of the goals that we had going into this, and you're going to have Trey Gowdy on later in the show, and we had a strategy here that we wanted to get every single person that we interviewed, whether or not they knew of any evidence of collusion, coordination, or conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russians. Furthermore, what you will see, Maria, is that we even asked questions about hearsay. Did they hear anything? Do they know anything? Do they have any lead for us whatsoever? And the answer was always the same, nothing. But what you had day after day is you had coordination with the Democrats and the mainstream media, who are essentially their mouthpieces. They would go out, run out of these hearings and say, oh my gosh, we just had bombshells today. It was really bad. We interviewed this Trump associate, that Trump associate. However, the opposite was true. And I think the really enlightening thing that you'll see through this is not
the opposite was true.
Just that. I think most Americans that watch your show that are up to speed on this, who have known this was a hoax all along, they get that there's not going to be anything new in these transcripts other than they'll likely be, you'll begin to see where some of our criminal referrals are based out of, is some of the false testimony that was given to Congress. But what you will also see is you will see the deep, dark fantasies of the Democrats in the House. Where are those sick fantasies? Where do they originate from? You'll see that they ask people about the P-tape of things, of all things. And I know it's Mother's Day and I don't want to talk like this, but this was the Russian dirt, that came from fusion.
That was so ridiculously over the top stupid, because anyone who knows anything about Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, is that he is a massive germaphobe.
GPS and the Clinton campaign, they had these fantasies, whether they, we know now that they didn't even get them from Russians. They claimed they were getting them from Russians. And here at the same time, you've got the Democrats in the House of Representatives accusing the Trump campaign of coordinating with Russia, when the reality is that they were the ones who were paying for dirt that they thought came from Russians, and then asking about sick things like P-tapes and prostitutes to every one of these witnesses that came in. I think.
And again, that confirms exactly what I said. Whatever the Democrats are accusing you of, it's a distraction because they're doing it right now. So now we're discovering that, of course, Barack Hussein Obama knew what was going on with Flynn. Joe Biden knew about it as well. Greg Ray on May 7th. Obama knew details of wiretap Flynn phone calls, surprising top DOJ official in meeting with Biden, declassified documents show. President Obama was aware of the details of then incoming National Security Advisor Michael Flynn's intercepted December 2016 phone calls. Stop for a moment. Do you remember how OMB said he was wiretapped and everybody went, oh, you ugly fuck. No, you weren't. Why? Yeah, as a matter of fact, yeah, he was. Because that occurred in the Trump Tower. And then Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, apparently surprising then Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, according to documents released Thursday, as exhibits to the government's motion to dismiss the Flynn case. Now, there is more. Obama had personally warned the Trump administration against hiring Flynn and made clear that he, Obama, wasn't a fan, according to multiple officials. Obama fired Flynn as head of the DIA in 2014. Obama, here's the deal. It's all in the details. Obama cited insubordination, while Flynn asserted he was pushed out for his aggressive stance in combating Islamic extremism, which is something Obama doesn't like to hear about. Islamic extremism, or that any Muslim can be bad. Obama knew what was going on, so did Joe Biden. No one can possibly think that Barack Hussein Obama was either a stupid or an uninformed individual in the Oval Office, and particularly with when he was dealing with issues of this criticality, this import. So, thank goodness we have a name now. We call it Obamagate, and that is going to stick. And so I heard this from Jesse Waters. Jesse Waters is kind of an oddoid. He took over Bill O'Reilly's slot. He's not Bill O'Reilly. His voice is a little irritating to me, but he does have some very interesting insights into some things. And these were his thoughts about the recent revelations. So let's see. Jesse, can you talk to us?
Waters, Obamagate. That's the subject of tonight's Waters Words.
I'm proud of the fact that with 2 weeks to go, we're probably the first administration in modern history that hasn't had a major scandal in the White House.
Obama hasn't had a major scandal in the White House.
What a joke. The Obama people got caught this week, and it looks like it goes straight to the top.
Yep.
Let's start here. Remember these Obama officials who told the country Trump was a traitor?
What a great case officer Vladimir Putin is. He knows how to handle an asset, and that's what he's doing with the president.
What do we know about Brennan? I didn't see anything.
You still believe the president could be a Russian asset?
Andrew McCabe.
I think it's possible.
What do we know about Andrew McCabe? I didn't see anything.
President Putin's got a very high return on his investment.
Samantha Power. That was her. What do we know about her? I didn't see any evidence. Susan Rice.
Taken a series of steps that had Vladimir Putin dictated them, he couldn't have mirrored more effectively.
What do we know about Susan Rice? I didn't see anything.
These horrible people were lying on national television. And they knew they were lying. They just didn't think they'd get caught. Well, we caught them. When House Republicans put them under oath in 2017, every single one of them said they'd seen no evidence of collusion.
No.
So American patriot Rick Grinnell, acting director of national intelligence, released the transcripts of these lowlives admitting there was never collusion. You ready? James Clapper, quote, never saw any direct empirical evidence.
Oh, no.
Samantha Power, I am not in possession of anything. Susan Rice, I don't recall evidence to that effect. And Andrew McCabe on the Steele dossier, we have not been able to prove the accuracy.
No, come on. Hey, welcome to Jerry Mead in Facebook chat. Good to see you here tonight. And so listen, now you get to listen, how the LDAM, the leftist Democrats and American media maggots, by way of the American media maggots, I should say, by way of AMM, Brian Stelter, ooh, this little fuzzball wants it both ways. Flynn is just a smokescreen for avoiding Wuhan 19 deaths, which is essentially an overblown flu targeting the elderly, while, in the meantime, the nation spent almost 4 straight years being put through the ringer of the constant whinging and whining and keening of little officious pricks like George Costanza here on CNN. Brian, baby, take it away.
So disappointing to look at what we're seeing from right-wing media these days, where there's such an obsession with the deep state and these revelations about the Russia probe and the decision about Michael Flynn.
Right.
They're treating the Michael Flynn story like it's a bigger deal than the deaths of 2,000 Americans a day. You know, we're seeing this on Fox and Friends and other shows. When the president called into Fox and Friends the other morning, Friday morning, right before the unemployment rate numbers came out, he talked about the Flynn case for 20 minutes before he was asked about the pandemic. In what right mind is any scandal, any political scandal, any Department of Justice story more important to ask the president about than the pandemic?
Oh, wait a minute. You mean the same Department of Justice story that your CNN, Brian Stelter, George Costanza, has been pushing for the past 4 years? That story?
Pandemic that's raging. Look, ultimately that's about news judgment. It's about lack of judgment.
Yeah.
But I find it
it
befuddling
is.
that some people are acting like this death toll is just normal and accepted and common and just another day now. Imagine if 1,000 to 2,000 Americans were dying a day from terror attacks. Imagine the president's response. All right, that's where we start.
Okay, so I guess what we'll do then, according to Brian, is pull out our M4s and start shooting these viruses. That'll teach them. So General Flynn's lawyer weighs in from the New York Post. Flynn's lawyer accuses Obama of framing the ex-national security advisor. This is pretty direct stuff. This is 2 days ago. The lead attorney for former national security advisor Michael Flynn on Sunday accused former President Barack Obama, other top administration officials, and the FBI of setting up her client. Yes. Sidney Powell on Fox News Sunday Morning Futures cited the revelation in recently released documents that FBI agents didn't tell Flynn he was under investigation or that lying to them would be a federal crime. These agents specifically schemed and planned with each other to not tip him off, tie him up, that he was even the person being investigated. So they kept him relaxed and unguarded deliberately as part of their effort to set him up and frame him. I say again, perjury trap. The whole thing was orchestrated and set up within the FBI, former DNI Clapper, CIA Director Brennan, and the Oval Office meeting that day with President Obama, meaning Obama knew everything. And then finally, today, from the New York Post. This is from the New York Post editorial board. Folks, you're losing the media in New York. That's not a recipe for success. The Post editorial board says it looks like President Obama ordered up phony Russiagate scandals. Russiagate is now a complete dead letter. But Obamagate is taking its place. Just how far did the then president, go to cripple his successor? It's now clear the Obama-Comey FBI and Justice Department never had anything more substantial than the laughable fiction of the Steele dossier to justify the counterintelligence investigation of the Trump campaign. Yet incessant leaks from that supposedly confidential probe wound up consuming the Trump administration's first months in office, followed up by the Bob Mueller-led special counsel investigation that proved nearly the total witch hunt that President Trump dubbed it. Information released as the Justice Department dropped its charges against General Michael Flynn shows President Barack Obama in his final days in office played a key role in fanning the flames of phony scandal. Fully briefed on the Crossfire Hurricane investigation, Obama knew the FBI had come up with nothing despite months of work starting in July of 2016. Yet on January 5th, 2017, Obama told top officials who'd be staying on in the new administration to keep these crucial facts from Trump. So there you have it. Obamagate. So sadly, Obama's and Comey's FBI played along. They sandbagged Flynn with that little friendly interview that later became the pretext for the bogus charges dropped last week, as well as triggering the massive White House chaos that subsequently followed. And this when the FBI had already gone over the general with a fine-tooth comb and concluded that no, he did not collude with the Russians. So, meanwhile, what happened is Jimmy the Leak Comey himself gave Trump an intentionally misleading briefing on the Steele dossier. That was followed up by a bunch of leaks that suggested the dossier was the tip of the iceberg, rather than a pack of bullshit and innuendo that hadn't at all checked out under FBI scrutiny. And this is how bad it was. The FBI went to a FISA judge in a FISA court, which also included a Yahoo News article to buttress their case, because that usually plays real well. And they got it signed off for 90 days from that FISA judge. Then they got it signed off for another 90 days because after 90 days, you got to go back to the judge and they look at the results and the judge says, okay, you can have some more. It got approved 3 damn times. Pulitzer Prizes got awarded for utter fiction. The Trump administration got kneecapped right out of the gate. Everybody, up to and including Barack Hussein Obama, in this treasonous chain, needs to be prosecuted criminally and civilly. And I have some perfect USC codes to do that with, because this can never happen again. Also, I'd like to add, there's one more article coming that just got revealed today, by the way. Scott Fitzgerald, thanks for joining in on Facebook. I hope you listen and watch to the whole thing. This is what needs to happen. The fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine needs to apply to all of this because the FISA warrant affidavit was bullshit. I've submitted warrants to numerous courts, federal and state. And if I submitted one that was packed with crap, I would be facing, at minimum, discipline up to and including criminal prosecution. I would never spend another day again as a cop, ever. And the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine is this. What it says is, if the foundational information that you based and predicated a warrant upon is bullshit, is specious bullshit, everything flowing from that tree becomes poisonous. And no one should be prosecuted from that. And all should be set free. Everyone caught, everyone sentenced, or affected by the illegal FISA warrant should be set free, to include Manafort and everybody else. I have said, well, before I go to the wrap up here, a new story just came out today. And the LDAM, leftist Democrats, and American media maggots have found another niche, another way to hammer at this by way of this leftist judge. So here's the story and the headline. Flynn judge to allow amicus submissions, delaying any immediate resolution to the Michael Flynn case. And as I say, this just came out today. So just when you thought maybe it was over, no. D.C. District Court Judge Emmett Sullivan, leftist, massive Obama leftist, issued an order Tuesday on the right coast, that's yesterday. Here on the left coast, it's still Tuesday, indicating that he'll soon accept amicus curiae, or friend of the court submissions, in the case of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, essentially allowing a court to use an ask the audience lifeline in what has already proved to be an unpredictable and chaotic prosecution. Sullivan's ability to take a massive dump in the piss in the punch bowl. His minute order indicated that an upcoming scheduling order would clarify the parameters of who specifically could submit the amicus brief, which are submissions by non-parties that claim an interest in the case. Sullivan specifically said he anticipates that individuals and organizations will file briefs for the benefit of the court. And make no mistake, this is another attempt by a leftist to drop a big steaming heap in the punch bowl. I say it again. Said it before. I will continue to say it because you know it's true. I said, and I've written since January of 2017, 3 long years, that what we are witnessing in the United States of America is a soft coup against a presidential nominee, a president-elect, and a sitting president. Heads should roll. And in America, this should never happen again.
Monsieur has been locked!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct, where I'm broadcasting right here on the SHR Media Network, behind enemy lines in occupied California. You want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at BZEP. I'm very active there. Tiaras are by My Little Pony. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be consorting in less than an hour. This Thursday night, for the first hour, I will have Jeff Dunitz. And also, I will have a 1-hour special report about law enforcement and the Wuhan 19, and specifically with regard to California. Is it legal for Gavin Newsom to do what he's doing? What do you think? I'm going to tell you all about it because I found all the applicable laws. I'm going to tell you about it on Thursday. Thanks to everybody for being here, listening live, being in chat. Thanks for listening in the podcast. Everybody, God bless, take care, be safe. See you Thursday night.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good
night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.